Round of 16 Premier League. Please, sir, do the honors.
Okay, so spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, it's the blue Terran, Liquid Taeja. And his nemesis, spawning in the top right-hand corner of the map, it's the Tyrant, the Dong. His name, it's E.G. J. Kong.
The Dong is powerful. On Yonsu, I have to say, I really like this map for Taeja. This is another map where I always wonder how it got placed and not vetoed out earlier. I know you've been vocal about how Zerg has a really tough time on this map, especially with taking the third, but please.
Well, yeah, as a Zerg player, I don't like this map, and I think a lot of Zergs feel similarly to me. And part of the reason why is because as you enter late game, the bases are very difficult for a Zerg player to attack, especially with ground forces. This base up in the bases in the top left and bottom right hand corner, there's basically no way for Zerg to attack this with Zergling Baneling. You have to use pretty much only Mutalisk if you want to do that. And the third base is kind of set back a bit too, so it can be a little bit harder to attack than third bases in other maps. But some Zergs like it. I know Suppy likes to pick this map in 6-pool a lot just because you can't do the normal wall off with your command center because of how it is in this map.
If Suppy was playing here, he would have won against Taeja game number 1 for sure. I mean, 6-pool is so powerful because as you were saying, you could put it down on the low ground, or if you put it up here, what ends up happening is there's too much surface area. Normally you put a barracks down, but you can't do that on this map. It's very difficult to. Either the barracks or the command center is open for your Zerglings to just crush it before it ever builds. So definitely something to keep in mind, but nothing's going to happen. Jaedong just throwing down his 15 hatch, throwing down a 17 spawning pool, I believe. Or 18 spawning pool, one of them.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. I wouldn't have expected him to do this when he scouts the CC first in the low ground. A lot of the time, when you scout something like that, you either go for the gas before pool, or you sometimes will even take a third hatchery before you make the spawning pool. And doing this opening is kind of unusual when you drone scout against this build that Taeja's doing.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what he does. I do expect the third base to go down really quickly, because he can afford it all with getting so many drones so early on. Jaedong's going to continue doing this harass over at the SCV, just forcing this one SCV to not mine at all. Kind of evens it out because remember, Jaedong is also not mining with this one drone. So he's kind of just saying, okay, I can scout you out and at the same time force you to not mine. Works out. Jaedong going to throw down 2 queens. So playing it so standard, like this is basically just a come at me, Taeja. You have probably the best build against what I'm doing right now. Even though it's not like a huge advantage, but it's still the best build that he could possibly be doing, setting himself economically into the mid game.
Maybe he's trying to do something mind gamey here, though. In the last series, we saw him go for that kind of unusual Roach Nidus timing, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he goes for some kind of cheese or unusual timing attack again in this series against Taeja. I mean, it looks completely standard, but it also doesn't make as much sense for him to be doing this against what he saw, so I'm a bit confused right now.
Still no gases. 5-minute mark has elapsed. Normally you'll throw down double gas at 5 minutes, but not going to happen here. Maybe the double 5:30 after the third base. Keeping an eye on that as he is going for the expansion. Taeja, I like this. Look, he's going for 2 racks directly after this. He says, okay, you're prioritizing on getting your creep as best as possible. I'm going to deny that as fast as possible as well.
And this is a more common choice. On maps where it's difficult for Zerg to scout with overlords, like this map and Akalon Waste, there's not a good angle that Zerg can send an overlord into the Terran base and actually scout what's happening before it gets denied. And as you see, this overlord is going to immediately get denied, and it's never going to make it to see this barracks.
Really unfortunate. Of course, this run would be terrible, going across the natural base and then into the main. You're never going to make it into the main. So
and even if you do, you don't know the barracks will be there because there's so much space in the main base on this map.
Very true. Just mass droning, though, for not for Taeja, for Jaedong so far. 38 harvesters to 31, so he's looking pretty equivalent in terms of economy, but getting a lot more drones here. He produces around 9 larvae every single minute, so you can definitely see Terrans normally get around 3.5 workers every minute, so you make a lot more drones than SCVs a minute. giving you that economic advantage to start out with. But we'll see how long that actually lasts. Now, I like this. This is the build we see Flash doing all the time. You get the very quick +1 with this. That way you can keep up as soon as 1-1 normally finishes for Zerg. There's no longer that huge disparity where Zerg can just take out everything in its path. From here, I'm still at a little bit of a loss, though. What does Jaedong actually do from here? Like, what's his inherent advantages?
Well, it's looking like he's just playing standard. One advantage that he will have, because he's doing this 5 or 6 queen opening, I think, is he should have a lot of creep spread, and there shouldn't be any way for Taeja to shut it down before this push moves out across the map. And when it moves out, the creep's already going to be pretty advanced by Jaedong. Okay. So, I mean, that gives him some advantage.
And this is a very defensible push.
Yeah, and he'll also have an upgrade lead. Because of Taeja's build, he only has 1 eBay, so he's going to have +1 attack finishing about the same time as Jaedong has 1-1 finishing.
Yeah. The big advantage Taeja will have now is that mobility with the 2 medevacs super early, and he's even incorporating Widow Mine now. This is something that you're a big proponent of, that it's so hard for me to get into my mechanics, but you always say, put 1 Widow Mine with all of your drops.
Yeah, you should always have 1 single Widow Mine with every medevac drop, because it's not expensive to have 1 Widow Mine in a drop, and it makes it a bit more annoying for Zerg to clean up. They have to send an Overseer too, and Overseers, until you have the speed upgrade, move slower than the rest of your units, so they'll get there later, and often they'll be on the same hotkey as everything else. So
yeah, it really messes up your multitask, right? And if you don't catch it, obviously it's just that extra bonus. So
yeah, and some of it's just about stressing the opponent's multitasking as well.
Yeah. Well, 1-1 is about to finish up for the Zerg player. Jaedong now losing a lot of creep tumors, but it won't be. Well, it might be a killing blow here as he's able to startle a lot of Jaedong's forces. Now, Banelings are just about to finish, but a lot of the Zerglings are already dead, and the Banelings go down. Is this going to be a killing blow? Zerglings trying to get in here, but there are Widow Mines. Now the Queen's being taken out. Oh my goodness. I think Jaedong's dead.
I think he's dead too, and this was just the perfect timing, I guess.
I guess so.
Because he caught this Banelings halfway morphed.
Halfway morphed, and on top of that, 1-1 just now finished after all of his units died. GG Taeja.